Yeah, it's just white. As long as you can see it, doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. Got it. Thanks. Bye.
I hate it.
Love you too. Welcome to Gatekeep Hate Week. This is part 4, Existing Light. And if your name is Julia, this part is for you. So for existing light, there's a couple of qualities we want to talk about, right? E stands for existing light. There's intensity, the color of the light, the distribution of the light, and the movement of the light, if you're doing something like long exposure or other visual effects in your images. So the first part we want to talk about is intensity, right? So like Julia said, all that matters is whether the light is bright or dim, things that you can control. So if you have a dimmer light or a brighter light, you can see things or not see things as clearly. Another important quality of light is how warm or cool something is. So this is an example of cooler light, right? It's a whiter, cleaner color. Typically, blue light or bluer light reads as cleaner light, right? If you change it to a warmer or yellow tone, now you have a warmer tone to your image, right? So this is considered warmer light. So the more yellow a light is, or the more reddish hue it has, it's considered warmer light. The brighter, bluer light is considered cooler light. Other things to think about is if you're getting really creative with your lighting, what colors you want to do. If you want to do split tones, you see this a lot. So you do something like this, where one is one color, one's the other. That's a pretty common example. It creates a more interesting look. Do one warm, one cool. You can get a split color in your photo. The other thing to think about is movement. So movement is when you're changing the position of a light during a shot, or you're doing some kind of other visual effect with it. When we think about movement, I think about like long exposure. Like if you've set up a camera with a long timer on it near a highway, point it, let the exposure start, and then cars drive through it, their taillights get caught, and you get those lines through the image. That's called long exposure, right? So that's where your shutter speed comes into play, and lights moving through or around your image create a different effect visually as you're working. So like in this image, for example, we see the motorcycle rider is clean in the shot. There was a flash that went off, and then I moved the camera and it dragged the headlights across the image. And so what that did is created a movement of the light in the image. Now that's a compositional technique you'll see people do from time to time in things like weddings or in like parties and club photography. But so existing light has a bunch of different things to think about while you're doing it. And it's one of those things that you can talk about all day, but until you go out and practice it, you're not going to get as much information from it, right? Let's take a look at some examples about how lighting can affect the composition of an image, right? Up first, we have our skull here with just clean light straight across it from both sides, well lit, evenly distributed. Then we dimmed the light on the right side, a pretty significant amount, brought it so that only our left side is our highlight, and our left light is still not facing directly onto the skull. It's aimed kind of behind it. Then our next image, we dropped the light on the right side even further. So now it's shot, image is considered dark, right? It's undershot. The background light from the lamp on the desk is still lit up, but our skull is only lit primarily from the right side. We got fill light coming in on the left across the image. Our next image, we then swapped it and we moved the right light closer, left the left light the same, didn't adjust it at all. But because our new primary source of light is from the right, that becomes the key source of light in our image, making it what we see more of directionally in the image. In this next image, we changed the color to blue and we dropped the right light the left light pretty significantly. So the blue becomes the primary focus of this composition. Change it again. We've completely removed the light from the right side and then brought the left light, or removed the light from the left side of the image and brought the light on the right side closer so that it becomes even more bright. And then we change the direction that it's coming in to a side light rather than from in front of it on that 45-degree angle, creating harsher shadows across the other side of the subject. Now in this one, we left that light where it was at, and then we brought the side light from the left back in. It's still not directionally facing right on the skull. It's facing a little bit behind it, and it's using it to fill in those shadows created by the blue light. And then we moved the light on the left side of the image around behind the skull, raised it up and tilted it down across the top to create a halo effect on the top of the skull from behind it. Here's an example of the skull outside in direct daylight. So we see, again, sharp lines coming across the face. That's the last part I didn't really talk about, is harsh versus soft light, or sharp versus soft light. And is it in focus or is it diffused through some sort of filter, or is it soft on the edges because of something that's causing diffusion to happen, or is it bouncing and filling in other places? And then speaking of bounce light, this is in the shade next to my house. So this is light bouncing off between two buildings, creating a soft light across the entire image. And the reason that's happening is because light is bouncing in from all directions, but there's no direct source on the subject. We need to think about the color, the direction, the intensity, as well as there's no motion in any of these lights happening, but the sharpness or the softness of the light, right? So we saw with the sunlight, there what's called direct light. And it's a very not aggressive is the word, but a very angular, specific light that creates harsh shadows where there's clean lines cut in. When you see that on some people find that less flattering, some people find it more flattering. It's just about perspective and I guess personal preference. So shutter speed, aperture size, and film sensitivity are all things that are usually, well, actually almost always within your control, things that you have the ability to manipulate on your camera. Existing light won't always be something you have control over. So one of the things you need to think about as you start venturing into photography and working and doing more work and producing more is spend time looking at the environments you're in. When you're walking through a building, take note of the light sources that are there. Take note of where the light is coming from. If there's a window, take note of light bouncing from a building across the street. Start just looking at light around you and observing it. And the more you do that, the more you'll be comfortable manipulating it, or you'll be more comfortable manipulating your photo to best work with the lighting available to you. As always, respect your gear, your spot, your subject, and most importantly, yourself. Love you guys. Take care.